Wow, here we are live on the internet. Can you believe it? Hi, everybody. I'm Jimmy Young along with Jerry Trupiano. Opening day, Fenway Park. You can feel the excitement in the air all the way to Marlborough, Massachusetts.
Nice view here, huh?
It's a beautiful day for a ball game,
We
isn't
beat
it?
traffic and everything.
We beat traffic. We don't have to pay for parking. You know what's missing, though? The smell
It's a good
of
smelling
opening
crowd.
day.
It's a good smelling crowd we have gathering today, and we hope you're kind to your neighbor.
That's right. Well, if anybody is out there on the internet watching us, I hope you'll bear with us for the next hour. We are live. We are taking tweets, hashtag PBNSOX, hashtag PBNSOX. I have absolutely no idea what that means. I do not tweet. No, I'm not.
You don't? I'm on Twitter.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Well, you should tweet it out that you're live on the internet. Do you know how to do that?
No, I don't know how to do
We might
that. I
have to.
should have done that earlier.
Yes, probably should have. But this is our new studio here at the Proactive Business
Very
Network.
impressive, very impressive.
And it's right up the street from where you live. And I don't know if I want to give that away, but you live there.
I'm there.
You're there.
I'm there.
And it's right up the street. And we're right off 495 here in Marlborough. And always a pleasure to see you, Jerry. I
Great
know one
seeing
thing.
you. What's
we
that?
can talk sports.
That'd be a good idea. Since we've gathered here for that purpose, I think
right.
we ought to do that.
Opening day, very special. A lot of people believe that this is truly the first day of spring on the sports calendar.
Late in coming this year, isn't it?
Absolutely, the longest winter that I've lived through in a long time.
Awful.
1969 was a bad winter in this area as well. And if you
Yeah.
remember all those snow totals, they were always comparing them to
Before my
1969. Yeah, I understand that. Well, it wasn't before my time, as you know, because I grew up here.
Yeah.
That being said, I've covered a few opening days in my career, as have you. How many have you been at? And how
Let's
many
see.
different stadiums, Jerry? Because that's
Wow.
always intriguing to me.
14 with the Red Sox.
Yeah.
2 with the Expos, 2 with the Astros. I couldn't tell you how many different ballparks. I know one year with the Astros, we opened at home in the Astrodome, which just celebrated his 50th birthday, by the way.
Wow.
50 years. I hope they do not.
1965.
They're talking about knocking it down. I hope that never happens. That was such a great facility, the first of its kind. So it's a little kind of special to me.
Didn't they call it the eighth wonder of the world
Yeah,
or something?
and Bud Adams, the late owner of the now Tennessee Titans, it used to be the Houston Oilers, he said, if you thought the Astrodome was the eighth wonder of the world, the rent was the ninth. But, yeah, and then one year we opened in San Francisco, and you know the problems they had at Wrigley Field last week when they opened Wrigley and the restrooms weren't working? Yeah.
Oh, oops.
Imagine being at Candlestick Park and 44,000 of your dearest friends there. I cannot tell you what was going on in that ballpark if you wanted to use the facilities. They weren't ready.
Were they mobile facilities, basically? Basically, I can demonstrate what might have been, kind of.
Probably a little of that, but probably some other stuff we shouldn't talk about. So
All right,
moving
fair
right
enough.
along.
That's right, moving right along. Always a special time, though. I
Yeah.
think not only just for broadcasters and fans, the players always get butterflies. They get excited about it, too. They introduce both teams.
Mm-hmm.
If there is a banner to unfurl, they will unfurl it. And, of course, it's always a big mystery on who will be throwing out the first pitch. I don't know. Do you know?
I have no clue.
And they keep it secret.
I would think, I'm going to guess Pedro Martinez, since he's going into the Hall of Fame. That would be a good choice right there.
Will Malcolm Butler make an appearance in opening day for the Red Sox?
I would think he might be there. Or
Maybe
some of the
carrying
Patriots.
the trophy or something like that.
The Bruins aren't doing anything. They might be on hand, huh?
Gosh.
Too soon? Too soon?
Too soon for them to be out of it? Yes.
Yeah, I mean, to make
Too
jokes
soon to
about
make
it?
jokes about them? No, because I think a month ago, a lot of people thought that the Bruins, okay, they've come through their little slump. They had that one stretch where they were unbeaten over, I think, 9 games, and they seem to have, got all the way up to the 7th place or maybe even the 6th place, and now they're out of it and the season's over. And
they're consistent. The only consistent thing about the Bruins this year was their inconsistency.
And speaking of inconsistency,
Yeah.
that'll segue perfectly into Clay Buchholz.
Oh, that Ernie, his earner run average took a little beating last night.
Yes,
didn't
it went from 0 to, I'm not quite, we'd have to check our notes. However, when you give up, I think it was 10 runs
10
in
runs.
3 1/3.
Yeah.
So if it's that's 13 1/3 over 7, that's 10. That's a lot of runs.
Nobody told me there'd be math.
No, I'm not doing math. I'm not going to do math. Everything okay?
Yeah, your camera's crooked.
My camera's crooked. Don't you hate when that happens? We're going to fix that right up.
Live television.
A lot of people might say I've been crooked for a long time, so you never know if that might look good or not.
7 runs in the first last night, given up. 6 were earned.
Right.
They all count.
Yeah, they do. And Clay took a beating in that game last night. Not just because he gave up a lot of runs, but he checked out of the game in the 3rd inning or 4th inning when he started to get rocked again.
The people question his mental toughness.
Yeah.
He's got the physical tools.
Is it toughness or is he just not smart, Jerry?
I think he's a smart guy. I don't know him.
I don't know
I was
him either.
gone by the time he arrived on the scene. But I think people question his mental toughness. The physical ability is there. So without knowing the guy, the thing you jump to is the mental toughness. I mean, we've been blessed here to see competitors like Roger Clemens, Pedro Martinez, Danny Darwin, Frank Viola. You know, guys who would go, Kurt Schilling. I mean, the bloody sock game. Mm-hmm. What more do you need to say about a competitor than that game? Absolutely. And you'd like to see some of that toughness and will to win on the part of Buchholz. Even Bronson Arroyo when he was here. You know, he didn't have the greatest stuff. He had a great curveball, but he would go out there and battle you. And last night, you know, Buchholz reverted back to the old Buchholz. He was terrific opening day in Philadelphia, but last night in New York, not so much.
And I think that probably frustrates more sports fans and managers and coaches than anything. Every manager and coach wants consistency out of their lineup, consistency out of their players. I don't care what sport it is, because if you are, you know, especially in football where you expect everyone to do their job and everybody has to play as one on each down. In basketball, everybody has a different role. So you want them to be as consistent as possible.
When you say everybody has a role, reminded me when I was doing games in the NBA with the Rockets.
Yeah.
Tom Nasalki was the head coach, and Del Harris was the assistant coach. And we're having lunch one day. He says, and Nasalki says to Del Harris, he says, you know, people say, I don't know, it just came out of the blue. Nasalki said to Harris, he says, you know, people say that everybody's got a role on a team. Del, tell them what we say about roles. You only find those in bakeries.
What?
What? Come on, coach. Lighten up.
I think there is a role, a 6-man role, a rebounder, a shot blocker role.
I think the inference there was that they had so many people out doing different things that nobody knew their role. And that's why you know, people talk about bullpen by committee. I don't believe in that. I think everybody should have a role. You should have a guy for the 9th inning, the 8th inning, the 7th inning, so you can prepare yourself and be ready to do your job.
Right. Exactly, and I think that goes to consistency. You know what your job is, you know what your role is. The manager or coach shows you the respect for that, and hopefully you
know what to expect. You know what to expect.
Absolutely. By the way, it does make the manager or coach's job just a little easier when you know what to expect.
When you have the people to get the job done,
absolutely,
and you're not scrambling trying to fit a square peg into a round hole.
That's right. Speaking of round holes,
yes,
we have on display here some beautiful donuts, courtesy of our friends from Dunkin' Donuts next door at the Gulf Station here out in Marlboro. And we were told that we should point out just how nice they are decorated, and you can see on your screen, Go Sox.
Question for you.
What's the code? What's the code?
Are those going to be able to make it through the show without us attacking them?
Well, the stomach is starting to grumble. So
they smell delicious. And we've missed lunch.
And we have missed lunch, and that would not be a good lunch, I just want to say.
That's how I grew up, man.
I'm not going to go there. Let's just leave it alone, shall we?
My mother used to say, there's eggs in there.
That's true. That's something good for. In fact, I had an egg for breakfast. Just saying, just in case you cared. Just in case you cared. Let's go back to Buchholz starting pitching and the Red Sox, because that definitely segues into today's starter for the Red Sox, Rick Porcello. And he came over from the Detroit Tigers in the offseason, got a nice contract from the Red Sox, and is now the number 2 starter.
For the moment.
Yeah. And by the way, does it really matter who is the number 2 starter? Because before the end of the season, pitchers are going to skip a turn.
Yeah.
There's going to be some injuries. There's going to be some rest, that sort of thing. So the rotation, once the season starts, isn't that big a deal, is it?
Well, I think what you want to have is you want to have a stopper. You want to have a guy that's going to be able to go out there, and if you're on a losing streak, you know that this guy's going to give you more than a 50-50 chance to win. That that he's going to be the guy that's going to stop long losing streaks. Plus, my problem with this pitching staff is, other than Wade Miley, I don't think anybody in the rotation, and I could be wrong, I don't have the stats here in front of me, there's not a 200-inning-a-year guy there. So your bullpen is going to get beaten up.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that because Mr. Maserati, Tony Maz, was at an event that I was at last Thursday at Mr. Sid's in Newton, one of my finest friendly men's stores in Newton Center. And we talked a little bit about the Red Sox are rolling the dice a little bit about a change in philosophy as far as pitching goes. They didn't believe in paying a ace like John Lester at age 30, 4 or 5 year contract with big money. And I say, in this era of specialization, especially in baseball, where you have the closer in the ninth inning, you just went through it, the 8th inning, the bridge guy, the 7th inning guy.
The setup guys, yeah.
The setup guys. Starting pitching is now guys that can go 5 or 6 innings a game. I mean, it's really changed.
Yeah, but in the long run, I think it's going to hurt you because you're going to wear out that bullpen because that manager wants to keep his job, and he's going to get guys up at the first sign of trouble and burn guys out of that bullpen. You need those guys who are going to eat innings and save that bullpen. The more effective your starters can be, the more effective your bullpen will be. If you overwork that bullpen,
tired arms.
They're going to bring, I believe they're going to bring Urihawa back today off the disabled
Koji is in the lineup. Well, he's available in the bullpen.
And at age 40, you can't expect him to be out there 4 games in a row.
No.
And some of these middle guys or setup guys, you can't expect them to be out there 4 days in a row. They're not built that way. They're not prepared that way. They're not stretched out. So if you don't have people eating innings for you to save that bullpen, it's going to burn you in the long run. That's why after the 19-inning game against the Yankees that they won on Friday night, it was so important for Joe Kelly on Saturday to give them innings and quality innings. And if he was not effective, if he was going to get his brains beaten in, he was going to have to be out there and to absorb that beating to save the bullpen.
Yeah. And the first go-round of the rotation, Mr. Kelly has emerged as the guy on a number of reasons. One is he's got mid-90s stuff. He can overpower you with speed.
The question with him is command.
Yeah.
Is he going to be able to locate his pitches?
Isn't that the question of Clay Buchholz and every pitcher in the game? Because it's all about command and what you got.
For the most part, Buchholz seems to have pretty good command and pretty good control.
Except again, here.
That's the thing. The mental toughness is the question.
And he must be working with Bob Tewksbury, who's the sports psychologist that works with the Red Sox, a former Major League Baseball player. And
it might be driving him crazy.
Could be. There you go. He might need a psychologist to deal with the...
Dr. Phil?
That's right.
Buchholz is pitching.
Right. And how about the fact that John Lester, speaking of sports psychology, having problems keeping runners on, something that the Red Sox knew about a long time, and for whatever reason, American League teams didn't really test him on that.
Right.
What did it take? The first game before the National League tested him on it? And he says it's not a problem.
Different style of play, really. I've been lucky enough to work in both leagues, and different style of play in the National League. They put more of an emphasis on the running game over in the National League than in the American League. Now you're in a lot of smaller ballparks, so maybe that'll change. But if you got guys over there like Billy Hamilton of Cincinnati and different guys over there who can run, D. Gordon, you're going to have to be able to eliminate that part of the game. It's almost like, remember Mackey Sasser and Steve Sachs?
Yeah.
They had trouble.
Yeah.
Sachs had trouble throwing to first base, and Mackey Sasser, the Mets, a catcher, couldn't throw the ball back to the mound.
Right.
It was
And
a
Kurt
mental
Young,
block.
Matt Young.
Matt Young could not throw to first base.
To first base.
Yeah.
Right. He used to roll the ball. I've seen that. We've seen, who was the guy a couple of years ago, Latin American player, pitcher that rolled the ball to first base. It's not Bartolo Colon. It was another guy. He had some challenges.
Hang-ups?
Yeah.
He had the yips.
Yeah, the
in golf,
yips.
they talk about the yips.
Well, it's
And
mental. It's
yeah.
a mental makeup, and I'll come up with it. This is what happens when you get older.
What
Maybe somebody will.
What were we talking about?
I don't know. Maybe somebody will tweet it to me.
What's that tweet
That's
again?
hashtag PBN socks, and I'll buy anybody a donut if they tweet us in here. How's that?
Don't
simple
give
as
them
that?
mine.
I won't give them yours. Jerry, there's 7 there.
Oh,
There's
three.
only 4 people here, so
Oh, okay. So we
we've
have
got
to share.
plenty. We
All
got-
right. But yeah,
Anyway, so we're talking about consistency and performance. We're talking about starting pitching. You think you still need to have that ace. Perhaps Joe Kelly has emerged as the guy, although the Red Sox are certainly paying.
he was not the ace on the Cardinal staff. They had Adam Wainwright and they had Michael Wacha. I think the guy's got some tools.
And Porcello was the same way. He wasn't the ace on the Tigers, but
Right.
he's a young arm, though.
And he's got a big contract now, doesn't
Now
he?
he has a big contract, and we always know the effect that might have on ball players. You never know. Didn't have a horrible outing his first time, but I think,
He's a pitch to contact guy, so I'm anxious to see how this defense holds up behind him.
and so far that defense is doing okay. I mean, again, you cannot judge anything on a week's worth of baseball.
You know, it's an old axiom in baseball that it takes about 30 games to really find out what you have for your team. So 30 games into the season, you should have a pretty good idea about the makeup of this team.
So the May 1st games against the Yankees, when they come back to Boston after this past weekend, obviously they played.
Probably you'll know a little bit
Middle
more by the middle of May.
Middle of May. Okay, so we're going into that.
I want to see how they do against, they beat they won series against teams they should have beaten. The Phillies are bad. The
Right.
Yankees are not
Right.
the Yankees
They
of
won
old.
2 series.
Now you've got the Washington Nationals in town.
Yeah.
And people consider them to be
One of the favorites
one of the favorites, if not the favorite,
to win.
in the National League.
Right.
So let's see what happens in this series.
Yeah, I think Nationals and Dodgers, NLCS has been kind of what a lot of people are looking at, various publications.
How about the only unbeaten team in the National League, the Atlanta Braves, after all the trades and moves they made? But that's why you know it's early. It is early.
Absolutely. Is
Now,
early.
Kansas City being unbeaten, Detroit being unbeaten in the American League, those are 2 contending teams. So that's
Absolutely.
believable. The Braves, not so much.
Yeah. I like the Nationals on a lot of fronts. Jordan Zimmerman is making the start, I believe, today for the Nationals. They're deep. Talk about aces on the staff.
They added Matt Scherzer.
Right.
They got Steven Strasburg. They're
Jordan
pretty good.
Zimmerman, they're pretty good. That's pretty
Jordan
good.
Zimmerman's a very, very good pitcher.
Yeah, so now they've got, and we were talking about this again with Tony, how you have to build in baseball for a roster that will survive 162 games. But you also have to put that roster together with the idea that you make the playoffs, so you're going to have a set rotation to win in a short game series as well.
Yeah, and I think, you talk about a 25-man roster. Really, in this day and age with injuries and people wearing down, you really have to have 30, 32 players that at your beck and call that are going to get you through a season.
Mm-hmm. And the Red Sox are deep. In fact, they've put their outfield depth at Pawtucket to start the season in Rusney Castillo, and Jackie Bradley Jr. is down there as well. I saw that Castillo actually hurt his shoulder diving for a ball over the weekend. No idea on how intense or how serious that injury is. But that's why you have depth. You need that kind of depth, especially over a 162-game season.
And today the Nationals are adding to their depth as they get Jason Worth off the disabled list, coming off shoulder surgery. He'll be in the lineup today batting cleanup.
Yeah. So we have the lineup. Let's talk a little bit about this lineup for the Red Sox, with Mookie Betts leading off, with Dustin Pedroia, followed by David Ortiz in the 3 spot. Hanley Ramirez. I keep looking at that Ramirez name and wanting to say Manny Ramirez. Oh, no. It's Hanley Ramirez. Pablo Sandoval, followed by Mike Napoli, who finally got his first hit of the year yesterday's game. So there was one little teeny weeny bright spot in the 14-4 smothering that they got of the. They got absolutely killed by the Yankees. Shane Victorino in right field, Xander Bogaerts at short, and is it Sandy Leon?
Is it?
I think it is.
It is.
I think it is. It is. Was I right?
He might be the player to be named later.
No,
it is Sandy Leon.
Sandy Leon. Not too bad.
Is it Leon or Leon?
Leon. It's got to be Leon. anyway, it is what it is. I know somebody who said that. Washington Nationals, and again, you're going to help me with some of these. We know Taylor. It's Taylor. What's Taylor's first name?
Michael.
My brother would kill me because he's got season tickets to the Nationals. Escobar, Unil, isn't it Unil? It's Unil. Uni
Escobar.
Uni Escobar. Bryce Harper, Jason Worth,
Ryan
Zimmerman, not to be confused with their pitcher, Jordan Zimmerman. That's not Frank Robinson. I know that for a fact, for sure. That is Clint Robinson, of course. And number 20 is Ian Desmond, their shortstop. Lobaton is their catcher, and Espinoza is their second baseman. And
Ian Desmond at shortstop, a couple of years ago, he was one of the outstanding players in the National League. He had a little bit of an off year last year. Let's see if he bounces back this year.
Jose Lobaton is the catcher. And
he used to be at Tampa Bay.
There you go. And speaking of which, Joe Madden, new manager of the Chicago Cubs. One of the managers that a lot of people enjoy because of his personality and his baseball knowledge. He was able to get the most out of a minimal roster in Tampa Bay. Now he goes to Chicago with a bit of a deeper bankroll, and more importantly, Theo's done a good job of rebuilding their minor leagues. They've got a lot of young players,
unproven with talent, but young.
And I like that.
It's tough to win with young players, though. It takes you a while to get acclimated.
Mix, Jerry. I think it's a mix, and I think therein lies the pressure on some of the front office personnel because they're all working within budgets, and
except the Dodgers.
Yeah, they're working.
You still can't see them on TV out there. They've got $1 billion TV contract with people in Los Angeles, and in Southern California, you can't see the games on TV. I think they're only going to like 9% of the area.
And that's because of the contract that the Dodgers have with their local. Is there a controversy with Time Warner or something out there?
Well, I don't know if it's Time Warner, but whoever has the rights is asking for so much in fees that the cable operations don't want to pay the fees to carry the games.
Interesting.
So the fans lose.
Unless somebody's
but
smart
they have
enough.
Vin Scully out there, so that's that's worth the price.
Listening to him on the radio is better than watching it on TV sometimes. And I teach at Curry College, and I played Vin Scully's description of Sandy Koufax's no-hitter. It's on YouTube.
Which one?
Well, the one in '65.
The perfect game?
Perfect game.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry, the perfect game. That's right. It's also a no-hitter, but it was a perfect game. And I told the kids, shut your eyes, turn out the lights. We're going to listen to this.
Is that where he says it's something like this? It's 9:15 on a Tuesday night.
Oh my God! And we're describing a whole scene, and it's so silky to listen to. I mean, he could be reading the phone book and be entertaining and easy to listen to. Which
still going strong at what? 84?
85, I believe.
Wow.
So there's hope, pal. Gotta hang in there. God gave you a great set of pipes, Jerry Trupiano. Someday, one day, you'll get back to it. Anyway, so we're talking a little bit about the Nationals, the Red Sox this year, the depth in the Red Sox outfield, the pitching staff that the Red Sox have compiled. You mentioned this, putting the bat on the ball style as opposed to a power pitcher who would be more, you'd be looking at the strikeouts to walk ratio kind of a thing, a guy who can make people swing and miss.
Schilling and Martinez and Clemens were strikeout pitchers.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jim Lomborg, to go back even further than that, when in 66 and 67, certainly. I prefer that. I prefer that as a closer, too. Mm-hmm. But look at the success that Koji Uehara had over the last, well, maybe not last year, but the year before. Again, a guy who can make you swing and miss with junk. He's not going out there and throwing.
Splitter. If he gets ahead, he doesn't walk anybody.
Right.
So he gets ahead in the count, and then he puts you away with that splitter, which looks like a fastball coming out of the hand. If you can, well, Keith Folk, when he was here, when they won in 2004, his best pitch was a changeup.
Right.
He was an off-speed guy.
Yeah.
It's not like Greg Kimbrell now for San Diego, who used to be with Atlanta.
Right.
And guys who could blow you away with, or Papelbon when he was here.
Right. Speaking of Papelbon.
To me, I always got along with the guy, and I thought the guy was a good guy.
Yeah.
But he's worn out his welcome in Philadelphia.
You
People
think?
say he's a bad guy. I don't think so. I mean, I think he's all right. But if I'm Detroit, I go get him tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm surprised.
Joe Nathan's on the disabled list. Joe Nathan, they got last year, had a terrible year, inconsistent. I'd go get Papelbon and take my chances if I'm the Tigers.
Yeah, and it looked. I mean, he's trying to get himself out of town. I mean, he was talking right before the Red Sox game. I know, and he was saying how much he
Love to hear.
loved it in Boston and hates it in Philly. That's not a great way to get yourself, beloved by your local fans. And by the way, some of the worst fans in sport. Sorry, city of brotherly love, but Philadelphia. I mean.
Yeah, they're tough.
They're
well,
tough.
the old story was at an Eagles game one year, they booed Santa Claus.
They threw snowballs at him.
Yeah. The all-time story, okay? This is going way back. Some of the old-timers told
Way
me
back.
about this. Back at County Mack Stadium, before they had the vet, and now they're in, Citizens Bank Park now, or whatever they named
Yeah,
it.
Citizens Bank Park.
When they had County Mack Stadium, they had an upper deck on his opening day, and they had Kite Man was going to come down. They had a ramp built in right field.
Kite
He
Man.
was going to come down this ramp on skis, and a kite that was going to take him like a parachute,
Yeah.
bring him down. He was going to deliver the ball for the first pitch on
Right.
opening day.
How'd that work out?
Big gust of wind comes along, blows him off the ramp. He's down. He falls into the seats. He breaks both legs, and they're booing him. Now, is that the ultimate?
That is absolutely.
That's all you need to know about the
ultimate.
fans in Philadelphia. They booed Kite Man, who broke both of his legs.
They booed Kite Man. Oh my God, he's down there with broken legs. Unbelievable. Those are great stories. That's why I told Jamie when I said, let's get Jerry Truppi on that way. He wanted to do this live stream before the baseball game, and I said, look, if I'm going to get somebody up to talk to about baseball, it's got to be Jerry Truppiano, because you have a gazillion stories about the years that you've spent in major leagues, and that's what one of the reasons why I always enjoyed.
Oh, you're very kind. But
I
I
try
don't know
to
if
be
the
kind.
stories are good or whatever.
I don't
but
care if
we
you
got
make
a
them
few.
up, Jerry. It makes me laugh, and that's all I care about. It makes me happy. What are your expectations for the Red Sox this year? I mean, it's so difficult to predict, I think, because you never know about injuries, and that's really the biggest factor.
I still believe in pitching being 75% of the game. You win with
75?
pitching. Yeah, it's always that's the
I think
old,
it's more like 90.
it could be.
Depends how dominant your pitching is.
They're going to hit.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think they're going to score a lot of runs, actually.
How good is their defense going to be? You got Sandoval, who's decent at third, but
He's
is
a
that body
plus.
going to break? Is that body going to
No,
break
his
down?
body's not going to break down. He's just a big guy. I think they were talking about that last night.
Let's see. Hanley Ramirez in left field.
Yep.
We saw him misplay a ball the other.
He's
the other
learning
night.
while doing,
Yeah.
certainly.
Tough to do at the big league
Yes,
level.
it is.
And Bogarts, while he started that terrific double play in the 19-inning game, has been at times inconsistent.
He's 20. Is he 22 or 23 now? I mean, he's so young.
Everybody looks 22 or 23.
Yeah,
to me.
no. Actually, they look 16, actually. But you're right. There's no question. And then usually Napoli, sure-handed first baseman,
Botched the ball.
botched the ball. It just shows you everybody's human. It's also so early in the season. But I think that their defense is stronger. I think it's a plus infield. I don't think that it's a plus infield. I think there are better infields and better infielders out there. But I certainly think that they should be able to get the balls that are hit to them. How many they will get and how far they can go to get them, obviously.
Well, Betts
is the
will go
biggest
get him in center field.
Yes, he will, but it's going to be tough for him to come in and get the ground balls at shortstop or at second base. You know what I'm saying? I'm just being.
How about Victorino? Is he going to last the whole season
no,
in
of
right
course not.
field?
Has he ever? Right?
Not lately.
No, he's probably in that. I want to say maybe 100 to 110 games, maybe. And look, I want to see Rusney Castillo play, and I'd like to see him in right field. You know, as soon as they can actually figure out a way to make a trade to get what they need.
$72 million. It's like a little return on the buck, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Did you hear what Kurt Schilling says? Well, we all know who's buying dinner for everybody at Pawtucket every night, and I would hope he is too. And a lot of Cuban culture this year, and you know, this is a story that goes beyond baseball this year, with the diplomatic relations being restored to Cuba, and we were talking about, again, I thought Maz made a great point about the culture of baseball in Cuba and how some of these players that are coming up at age, the Red Sox signed a guy who was, 17, 18, 19 years old, this guy, the shortstop they signed. He says it's part of their blood. It's part of their DNA. Yeah. So whether they're young or they're not young, they're just all about baseball.
And I remember, oh gosh, it's got to be 12 years or maybe more ago when baseball sent some people down to Cuba. Among them was Dan Duquette, who was the GM of the Red Sox at the time, and he was telling us a story, and not in a braggadocious sort of way. He says that country is so poor. I know. So poor. Yeah. They've broken down cars all over the place. They can't get the replacement parts.
70s, yeah.
He says, and people will come up to you and beg for you. He says that he had a carry-on bag with a change of clothes in there. He gave his clothes away to some kids.
That's nice. When I went to the Dominican Republic,
same thing.
I brought a couple of gloves, some baseballs and bats, and I used it as a tip for a driver. And he was so excited. He says, I have an 8-year-old son. He's going to be so excited. And I said, that's exactly why I brought these.
Well, you know the great town San Pedro de Macorís, where they have all the shortstops?
Yeah.
5 years ago, they had a hurricane go through there, and they lost 3 shortstops.
Goodness gracious. They ran off, they just flew away. All right, that being said, Cuban culture, baseball, the Red Sox have delved in it with 2 players. I give them credit, again, that they're not forcing these guys through the ranks. They're putting them into places where they can succeed before they move them up.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of Cuban baseball players, we lost one of the greats a few months back when Minnie Minoso, legendary player for the Chicago White Sox, as beloved as Roberto Clemente is,
or Ernie
Puerto
Banks,
Rico,
too, from Chicago.
But from Latin America.
Right.
When you talk about Clemente, he is the man of all Latin American players. But Minnie Minoso was beloved as well, and he finally passed away, I think, at the age 92.
Yeah, and going back to that, we were talking about these. The Cubans love to be in winning situations, in pressure situations. Brings out the best in them. We all know athletes that shy away from the ball in basketball at the end of a game, or it's a 7th game of a World Series and somebody wants the ball, as opposed to, I don't know if I want to be, the Cuban culture, these people tend to rise to the occasion. And of course the
national pride, right?
It's national pride. And I go back to the king of the showman, who's one of the first pitchers to come from Cuba. And Louis Tiant loved being on stage in a big game. And that is, I think, the perfect example of what that Cuban culture loves about the spotlight.
Now, I'm going to get us off on a little bit of a tangent and start a little controversy here, because I think Louis Tiant belongs.
The phones are going to ring off the hook. Sorry.
You're killing me.
I'm sorry.
He belongs in the Hall of Fame.
Oh, God, 100%.
Jack Morris belongs in the Hall of Fame.
Absolutely.
And people.
Pete Rose does too, by the way, at this point. Pete Rose does too. Put him in as a player.
Put him in as with an asterisk. Okay, if you could.
There's going to be a few asterisks.
Right.
Okay?
But, just the people that go by the numbers, that Tiant didn't have 300 wins, or Jack Morris didn't have 300 wins, or he had a high ERA. Those guys were big game pitchers.
Right.
Game 7 of a World Series. And, that duel between Morris and John Smoltz is going in the Hall of Fame this year, in the 91 World Series, that was classic.
Yeah, that was great baseball.
And it's not just one game. Jack Morris, I think, had more opening day starts. You earlier were talking about how many opening days we did. Yeah. I think Jack Morris had more opening day starts than anybody in baseball history.
Wow.
And that alone is not enough. But he was a big game pitcher. Curt Schilling was a big game pitcher.
And I think that it's kind of like, when you're watching a Hall of Famer, where the performer distinguishes themselves from others on the court, on the field of play, that they are at a level that is above average, certainly, and if not plus average, over what is on display on a regular basis. And you know what it is when you see a Hall of Fame player. You say, you know what, that guy's special.
You know, at the same time, you feel that you have that ability to say this guy is going to be special, but we are so today in the media, we are so anxious to use the word great or to have a coronation of somebody.
Yeah.
Yesterday, the Masters, Jordan Spieth put on a terrific performance. From everything you hear, a terrific young man, and people are already starting to use the word great with him. I hope so. No,
I think
but
he's great.
I think he's a quality, from what you hear, a quality individual.
Yeah.
Had a terrific performance. But let's not put all that pressure on somebody right away. Let's wait.
I tell you something. They were playing a lot of profiles. Andy North actually did an interview with Jordan Spieth when he was 14 years old, and he said, "I want to win the Masters." And first of all, he's got great parents.
Yes.
He's got I believe, a special needs sister.
His younger sister, and
so this is he's
that's
got
a quality
humility.
family. Yes.
That's a quality family, and he's so cool. He's been on the stage at the junior level now for a number of years. So making that next step up, similar to what Tiger went through.
Did you hear what he went through the night before?
Yeah, he was playing ping pong and one
saw
night
the movie the night before the final round.
Yeah.
People were saying, "Were you watching the Golf Channel? What were you doing?" He says, "No, I was watching a movie, Saving Sarah Marshall." I guess it was kind of a raunchy movie.
Yeah. Okay. I wouldn't know that because I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it.
No, I haven't seen it
I just
either.
read the story.
Just tell your partner Hardy on 98.5.
Yeah.
I heard him today on the way driving wherever I was driving, Mr. Trupiano, and he was patting himself on the back for predicting Jordan Spieth would win the Masters on Saturday morning. You tell him I had him on Wednesday before the Masters.
All right.
Okay, because he comes into this hot, and I said, this is Jordan Spieth's Masters to lose. And I have proof of this because I actually entered into a little golf fantasy pool, and I said, I don't care about anybody else. Jordan Spieth is going to win the Masters.
Well, Hardy invented the game. So.
Yeah, that's what I understand. And of course, you got to listen to him, 6 a.m. on Saturday morning or something like that, whenever his golf show is.
Might miss it.
Yeah, I know I have missed it. No disrespect
no
to partners.
disrespect, but
no disrespect. He's a fun guy. I know that you guys do a regular thing on the weekends, and that's great.
Too early for me.
But I only
Baseball people are not early morning people.
Let's just say I only listen to half the hosts in the studio. Okay, no disrespect because I've never met him. Anyway, back to things that really are trending, like opening day at Fenway Park.
Can we go back to the young players for just a moment?
Sure.
Because the right fielder Bryce Harper for Washington, people are saying this is the LeBron James of Major League Baseball and predicting greatness. He's a very good player. Okay, he's got some holes in his swing, and people are already starting to knock him down. So I think at times we in the media build people up, and then through some strange twist of fate, knock them down. Exactly.
Because it's another, and then there's a third part to that story.
The comeback?
The comeback. And isn't that sports?
Yeah.
It really is.
Isn't that life?
And absolutely. It's the same thing. Sometimes you zig, sometimes you zag, sometimes you crash, sometimes you rise.
Some days you're the windshield, some days you're the bug.
That's a great line. I don't think I've ever heard that.
It's from a song.
Don't
Trisha
sing it.
Yearwood.
Who?
Trisha Yearwood. She's married to Garth Brooks, right?
Oh, country.
Yeah.
Oh, that's why.
I like both kinds of music, country and western.
Oh, goodness gracious. Good for you. We'll be listening to the ball game on the way back, all right? Not country music, okay? Anyway, that's another story. Back to the Red Sox this year. The over-under in Vegas, I believe, is anywhere between 84 and 85 and a half games. Vegas tends to know what they're doing, by the way, because they are the wise guys. And they're remarkably right a lot of times. Yeah. That being said, I think the Red Sox will overachieve from that 85 game mark this year. I actually think what they're going to do, and this is being recorded, right? We have a recording of this. Last year they were 71 and 91.
Yeah.
They're going to be 91 and 71 this year. And please remember I said that.
91 wins?
91 wins.
All I know is...
That's the optimist, isn't it?
I'm terrible at predictions. Terrible.
Yeah, well,
all I know is...
I was good at golf this week.
You're going to win 50. You're going to lose 50.
Good
What
point.
you do with those other 62 games determines your season.
Interesting. It's a great way to look at it. Great way to look at it. And one more thing about Tony Maz. I don't know if you've heard this, but baseball is trying to create more excitement during the regular season and attract a younger fan and do all this stuff. What Tony wants to do, and it's intriguing to talk about. I know a lot of old-time baseball guys aren't going to like this, but that's okay, because I think in the past, baseball has done some things that have backfired many times, and they're not afraid to try.
Futuristic uniforms?
Yeah, among other things.
There's a story there, too.
Yeah, and I think I think Rob Manfred may get rid of the home field advantage for the All-Star game, too, which I think is ridiculous for the World Series.
This year it counts.
No, it doesn't. It's an All-Star game. It's an exhibition,
They were embarrassed that year when they ran out of pitchers. And,
right. That's what that Bud Selig said, okay, we'll do a tie.
Yeah.
I know, let's play home run derby and see who wins. I mean, it doesn't matter at that point.
So what's Maz's idea?
Everything's a 3-game series, and you get points, like similar to soccer and hockey. I know. I knew you wouldn't like that. Did you get the reaction shot on that? Did you get the reaction shot on that? You don't like it. Okay, say why. Because I'm like thinking about it, and I'm like, you know what? It may make sense. It makes every series count.
Every series does count.
Well, not the interleague series.
At the end of the season,
yes,
162 games.
Yes,
you finish exactly where you should finish because you've played 162 games. There's no backing in.
That's true. Isn't it? It's not too long. You don't think the season's too long?
No.
Oh, see, I do.
Do you?
Yeah. I can't tell you the last time I've watched a whole baseball game from start to finish. If I did, and if I was there, I can watch a start to finish. On the couch, forget about it. To me, it's a perfect afternoon.
Well,
nap.
they're trying to get the
speed
pace
it up.
of the game.
Yeah. Well, you know what? When it gets to 2.5 hours, come talk to me, because that's the way it was.
You want to speed up the game?
Yeah.
You want to speed up the game?
Sure.
Call the high strike.
Right.
Bring the strike zone up. Make the guy swing the bat. When I was in the National League, we had a great umpire by the name of Doug Harvey. And you'd love to see Doug Harvey on getaway days, because he would say, "Men, I have a flight to catch. We're going to swing the bats today, so you better be ready."
And it was up here.
It was the rule book. It was just under the armpit,
just under the armpit,
to the top of the knee.
Yeah.
Call what's in the rule book. A high strike now is the belt buckle,
right?
Which is ridiculous. If you want the guys to speed up the game, okay, guys are going to try to work for a walk, whatever. If you start calling the high strike, they're going to have to put the ball in play.
And think about it. It's tough to catch up to that high strike as a batter. Only the quickest hands you're going to find out there that are going to be able to turn on that pitch.
But yeah, if you're facing a guy like Scherzer who's throwing 96, 97, right. If you're facing a finesse guy, he can't live up there.
Right.
Well, so he's got to keep the ball down.
Right.
So
try and sneak in a high fastball.
But what you have to do is make the hitters adjust and think about that high strike, where they're going to have to swing the bat.
Yeah, which is what they need, because they want more offense in the game, because the demographic is old. Hate to say it, older.
Well, the average baseball fan, I think, is 55 years old. Yeah. The average NFL fan, we just heard this last week. Average baseball 55. Average football fan is 45.
Really?
And the average NBA fan is 35.
Interesting.
And I didn't hear about hockey or soccer. But they just took those
because there are no
splits.
Average fans. They're
passionate.
Fan. They're passionate. And by the way, very similar types of fans. Mm-hmm. And the two sports in America that were not created in the United States, hockey and soccer.
Yeah.
Basketball, a guy named Naismith out in Springfield.
Well, they invented hockey there too. They used to have a janitor, Willie, was sweeping the floor, and one day Dr. Naismith came out with a volleyball, was dribbling around him, and he threw it up.
This is up on the internet. You understand that you're saying this, and I just want to make sure.
He threw it up on the peach basket, and then he did that about 3 times. About the 3rd time, while Willie was sweeping the floor, Willie took the broom and hit him across the back and invented hockey. You've never heard that?
No, I have not heard that.
Oh, you're sorry you brought me in.
I said, no, I'm not. I think it's great. That's why I brought you in. I said, he has great stories. It'll be fun. So, yeah, and of course, soccer is a derivative of rugby football, which started in Europe and, continues to scratch its way into the mainstream of sports culture in the United States. And I'm a kind of a soccer guy, so I like the
Yeah,
flag.
and we talked about media building athletes up and knocking them down, and the comeback.
Right,
that
that's the
cycle.
story we love.
What sport needs to make a comeback in the America's thinking? There's a sport that was very popular at one point that has been beaten down.
I mean, you could boxing.
Boxing is
And
the
I
one.
do. Ding 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 ding. Boxing.
Boxing.
And give NBC credit.
Right. They just they just put together a package on a Saturday
That's
night.
right. And I can say this: if Costas, Michaels, and Marv Albert were in the ring, that would be a good fight. Certainly, there's more talent in the broadcast booth, I think, than in the boxing.
I didn't see any. I'm a boxing fan, but I didn't see the card.
Jerry, and it's a travesty.
I used to do boxing on TV with Vinny Pazienza.
Love it. And Vinny Paz used to come on my show. He's a great guy.
Yeah.
And they're finally going to do his movie.
Are they?
Yes, they're finally going to do his movie. And I don't know
The
who's
Tasmanian Devil.
The Tasmanian Devil. And a great story. How many boxers do you know that break your neck and then come back, break their neck and then come back and actually go in the ring again?
How about having a detached retina and getting back in the ring?
well,
Sugar Ray Leonard.
And Sugar Ray did that. And that probably wasn't the smartest thing he's ever done. But it worked out pretty well for him, too.
Yeah.
And Marvin Hagler still won that fight, as far as I'm concerned. And I will absolutely go to my grave.
Those are classics.
And again, they're almost better off, Jerry, I think, showcasing the new guys, but talking about the great fights and showing certain rounds. I'm surprised that they haven't, and again, I only caught a glimpse of it, but I would think that would help sell the sport of boxing again. Because it would just be not just two guys fighting. It would be, let's take a look at some of the greats and like a historical perspective. And by the way, it plays right into Marv Albert, Bob Costas, and Al Michaels. They've been around enough to know some of these great fights.
Yep.
Oh, and I got to take this time because I'm on the internet, and he's a great guy. I've come across him a couple of times in my career, and I understand he just got voted into the Sportscasters Hall of Fame. Mike Tirico from ESPN. Great guy, Syracuse graduate, and one of the nicer guys in the business, as far as I'm concerned. And he was anchoring SportsCenter this morning.
I saw that.
Yeah, and
First time, I think the last time they said he anchored SportsCenter was it Michael Jordan's last game?
I think that's what they said. Right, I saw that exactly. Yeah, his last game for the first time, second
I don't
time,
know if it was
third
first or second. I don't know.
Speaking of sports stories that go up and down, so I guess back to opening day.
Yeah.
I have lots of memories of opening day as a child growing up in the Boston area, begging mom, because she was the boss, to allow me to skip school to go and sit either in the bleachers or perhaps sometimes in the box seats. I remember a friend of mine had roof box seats, which were a treat, and I remember sitting up there, interestingly enough, with my old friend Halftime Howie Applestein, who introduced me to Donna. So I'll never forget that either.
Halftime Howie Applestein.
Yes.
That's not a real name.
It is actually his real name. It is actually his real name.
Why did they call
I
him
call him
Applestein? No.
Now, hang on a second. Applestein is the maiden name of my Donna.
Oh,
That's
okay.
Not that. Well, let's just say it's the maiden name of my Donna.
Okay.
Because her brothers and her father are all Applesteins.
Okay.
That's just Applestein.
Well, why the
APPEL.
halftime?
Well, when he was coming on my show back in the 90s, because Howie was one of the most obnoxious, irreverent sports fans I'd ever met. Like, he would come up with stuff that would drive me nuts. Typical, perfect, provocative. Provocative is the word. But sometimes provocative can be stupid, too. They can. Mm-hmm. Like, I remember his trades. He was famous for his trades. Don't you think we should trade, this Hall of Famer, that Hall of Famer, that Hall of Famer for this Hall of Famer? That? And we're like, no, I don't. That's stupid. You can't do that. Come up with something that makes sense. Anyway, he would come on my show, and one year, I want to say it may have been 94, 95, 94 probably, he said on the air on my show that he would shave his head if the Red Sox did not win the AL East. They did not.
They did not, huh?
They did not win the AL East, and I give Howie a lot of credit for this. He had his head shaved on my show. And somewhere there's video of that. And I don't know if I have it somewhere. I know he has it somewhere. But since then, he's gone on to create a high school sports talk show on Long Island that's been going on for about 20 years now. And he is a local high school sportscaster legend in Long Island. And he is known as Halftime Howie because he used to call my show when New England Cable News was distributed on the satellite. He'd be watching it on Long Island with his friend Sal, who had a satellite dish. And they'd go across the street and they'd call, and it was, Sidekick Sal and Halftime Howie. And, we were getting calls from all over the United States when we first started. We couldn't understand, how are we getting calls from Idaho and Montana and, Norwood can't get us? Well, it had to do with cable TV. And, Continental Cablevision was the original cable distributor of New England Cable News and an owner. And it was on certain cable systems and not on others. It was 750,000 homes when it first started. But it was being distributed free, unscrambled on the satellite in 92, 93, and 94. And we were getting calls from all over the country. And George Steinbrenner called my show one night.
Really?
He did, because my dad was watching in Sarasota, Florida, at a sports bar, and the guy was great to him. He said, "Oh, your kid's on the show. We'll watch the show, put it on." And he calls and he goes, "It's the chief from Sarasota, Florida." I knew exactly, obviously, who he was, since he was my dad, after all. And the next caller was from Ocala, Florida, which is where George lived.
Yeah.
All right? And he says, "This is the boss calling." And I go, "Bruce Springsteen?" And he goes, "No, the boss of South Bronx." And I said, "George Steinbrenner?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "I've been watching it on a satellite, blah, blah. If that guy could be the chief, I could be the boss." And they go, "Well, you are the boss. So let me just give you a quick quiz, because I happen to know. This was the year he was banned from talking about the Yankees, baseball, remember? And I'm going to give you a quick quiz to know that you really are George Steinbrenner. You're not like Halftime Howie pretending to be, or anybody out there." And I knew that he was on the U.S. Olympic Committee. And I said, "Can you name me the member of the U.S. Olympic Committee who lives in Wellesley, Massachusetts?" And George Steinbrenner said, "You're talking about Paul George." And I went, "I guess you are George Steinbrenner." No one else would know that, okay? But obviously you know that because you're on the same committee. And then we talked for about 5-10 minutes and made the wires back in the day, and got picked up as a little kind of a neat thing that George Steinbrenner called this talk show out of Boston. And, that was one of my great memories.
Do you know who Harvey Green
Of course I do.
is? Harvey Green
Miami Dolphins PR guy.
He was the Miami Dolphins PR guy, or he still is.
Still is.
But prior to that, he was the PR guy for the Yankees.
Yeah.
Well, my friend Chip Namias, who was a good buddy of Howie Green, Chip was the PR guy with the Oilers when I was doing the Houston Oilers games.
Harvey Green. You said Howie.
I'm sorry,
worked
Harvey
with me.
Green.
That's another story.
Harvey Green, I'm
right.
sorry.
Harvey Green, right.
So Harvey was always on 24-hour call for Steinbrenner. Everybody in the Yankees organization always on 24 hours call. So he had to go to a wedding, and he was going to be away from a phone. This was before cell phones. And he's real nervous. What if George calls? And Chip says, "Don't worry, I'll take care of it." So Howie goes out of town to this wedding, or Harvey, I'm sorry. So sure enough, Steinbrenner calls looking for Harvey Green. Yeah. And Chip Namias answers. "Harvey's not here right now." "Where is he?" "Well, he's out. He's not here right now." I'm calling back in 15 minutes. "You find him. I got to talk to him." Call back in 15 minutes. "Not here." "I'll call back in another 15 minutes. Third time he calls, he says, "You find Harvey Green or I'll fire you." He says, "Mr. Steinbrenner, I don't work for you." He says, "I don't care who you are. I'll find who you work for, buy the company, and I'll fire you."
That was George.
That was George.
I'll tell you what, the Yankees could use a little
They could use a little of that
bombastic
right now, yeah.
It's kind of sad in a way, because I think it's good for baseball to have the Yankees strong. I remember a few weeks ago, the Forbes magazine came out with the most valuable franchises in sports around the world. And Manchester United was number one and Real Madrid was number two. But the number one franchise in America for worth, New York Yankees. And that obviously goes to the size of the market more than anything else. Plus, it doesn't hurt that they had 27 World Series championships. Though I don't think they're going to be getting one this year.
I don't think this year is going to be the Yankees year. No. They don't have enough. They don't have enough pitching.
Right.
If Tanaka holds up, which is questionable, and if CC Sabathia can have a bounce back year, okay, it's possible. But their lineup is not the lineup that the Yankees have had in the past.
No. And Jerry Trupiano, as always, it's been fun talking with you.
Are we done already?
Isn't that amazing how
Wow.
time flies when we're having fun? And we could do this on a somewhat regular basis. And
You bring the donuts, I'm
they
here.
are starting to smell good, aren't they?
They have throughout the whole show.
That's right. And our friends at the Gulf Station next door decorated our little donuts here. I know you don't like to do predictions. I don't like to do predictions, although I do like at the beginning of the year to say 91 and 71 or something like that.
I'll put them down for 88 wins.
Okay, that's cool. And again, the over. I think we're both in agreement that they're going to get over the 85 or 86, which is what Vegas has. And just for those of you out there who might remember the Jimmy's talk show with Jimmy Myers from Knobscott Cafe, at the beginning of the NBA season, I'm pretty sure that Mr. Myers and I talked about how many wins the Celtics would have. And I'm pretty sure that Jimmy Myers said no more than 35. And I said definitely more than 35 and closer to 40. Now they have 3 games left and could get to 40 and 42 if they run the table and win the next 3 games. I have a feeling they're going to lose their last game to Milwaukee because it's not going to mean anything. But then again, Brad Stevens has done a great job with this team. And by the way, Danny Ainge did a great job as executive, being able to put together a bunch of guys who are really cast-offs from their teams and giving them an opportunity to play basketball.
The sum of the parts is much greater than the individual parts.
Absolutely, and fun to watch. Yeah. And by the way, the only winter team that you'll be able to watch in the playoffs this year. Not that I'm gloating or anything, but I am definitely gloating about this because I love the Celtics. Jerry, thank you so much.
Jimmy, always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure, and hopefully more of the Trupiano and Young show here at the Proactive Business Network. For Jamie Staffslin out in the back and Cricket in the front, Jerry Trupiano, I'm Jimmy Young. We'll see you next time.